Hey guys, today we're going to be watching Houston Police Chase, January 16th, 2013, 4 p.m. update. Today is New Year's Eve. This is the last day of 2021. Happy New Year. Let's listen now.
We are westbound on the North Loop. You can see the 59 interchange signs. He's going around a 18-wheeler there as we approach Lockwood. And this driver is keeping right on his way. And we have seen a lot of officers either guarding those feeder lanes, waiting to see if this person's going to turn off. They've thrown out 3 different sets of spike strips to no avail. And they're keeping a fairly safe distance from him as they follow him. You can see that Hirsch Road exit that we just passed right there as he continues westbound. We're approaching Hirsch right now. And you can see they're coming in a little closer. We're almost to the 59 East Tex freeway, almost to 59 East Tex at that Hirsch exit with officers behind him. And he's going to go ahead and stay on the loop there as he continues being pursued by officers. And in these nice wide shots, you can really get a sense of just how big this pursuit is as you see a lot of cop cars lined up behind, waiting for this driver to make a move. And I can see here, we're hearing, I know Andy Sirota is getting ready to mic up and join me right now, and I don't know if Andy's been on the phone with his sources. We've been trying to work as many sources as we can to try to figure out when a chase like this starts and people are being put in danger. You want to know, how did this all begin and why did it begin? And I know we've been making a lot of calls. We're thinking this could be possibly involved in some sort of bank robbery. That's what we've been told. You're passing Jensen right now. You can see a little bit more traffic. This is definitely going to slow him down. Definitely going to slow him down here. And Andy's getting mic'd up now as we approach the Hardy Toll Road.
And Rachel, checking with my police sources over at HPD, they said this is all started because of a bank robbery, and that officers have devices in their vehicles, in their patrol cars, where they're able to track money that's stolen from a bank. And that's exactly what happened in this case. Their vehicles picked up on a signal, and they were able to get a vehicle description, and that's how this chase started.
It's amazing the technology they have, and we know bank robberies, we are no stranger to that in the Houston area. This is something that we know a task force have been assigned to. This is something they're really trying to crack down on. And now they're coming up to a funeral procession. This is interesting. You saw that motorcycle cop at the back. You can see these cars lined up on the left. They're part of a funeral procession here as we approach Jensen, still on 610. And this driver in the minivan, who we're hearing may have some involvement in a bank robbery, tracking money in the back.
Right, and I was getting a little background on these devices, these monitors that officers have in their vehicles. They're similar to the LoJack concept, if you're familiar with that, if our viewers are familiar with the LoJack system. The devices that Houston police officers have in their squad cars, very similar to that. So when a bank robbery occurs in the city of Houston and there is a tracking device on that money, if an officer is nearby, they're able to pick up on those signals.
It's really here. I'm going to update you where we are right now. So now he's still in the 610 North Loop. He's going very close to crossing over I-45 North, you know where that interchange is. Is he taking, he's taking the exit, right?
Looks like he's
taking the exit, maybe heading north now on I-45.
You know, and there's so much for pursuing officers to consider in situations like this. They have to worry about all of the other drivers on the road, and it's very hard to predict a fleeing suspect's behavior. At some points, they flee in excess speeds of, up to 90, 100 miles an hour. In some cases, they leave the freeways and cut through neighborhoods. So officers have to keep a safe distance. They've got to worry about the other motorists on the road.
Yeah, no question about that. And we're now southbound on 45, just kind of update you, passing Cavalcade. And you see all that traffic going the other direction, northbound on 45. I think what's been to this guy's benefit, this person who's driving benefit, is the fact that he's had fairly open road. But now we're getting into that 1 o'clock hour. And, a lot, we've seen some empty school buses pass by. Things start to change. Traffic may get heavy. heavier, and they've tried the spike strips, but nothing has slowed him down. So you really have to be cautious when you're working a chase like this. No question about that. But Houston police have been following him closely, and fortunately, so far, we haven't had any problems as far as him even clipping other drivers along the way.
Right, and there's a certain protocol that Houston police officers have to follow during these chases, and you and I both know over the years that policy, that chase policy, has evolved.
Oh, no question about that. And we've had some incidents where it's been forced to evolve because of that. And, that use of the spike strips in an open road like this can be very effective. In this case, it hasn't slowed him down yet, but they're still working on that and still trying different tactical ways that they can try to get this driver to slow down with the least amount of risk or injury to other innocent people on the road. Right as you came up, they were passing a funeral procession. So you just think about that. We're in the North Main area right now, I-45. I know our graphic says northbound. Are we confirming it's northbound? We're still northbound? We're southbound. We're southbound on 45.
And it looks like the driver's beginning to speed up there a little bit. It's still unclear at this point if there's anybody else in that vehicle with him. Police haven't been able to determine that yet, but officers, you can see, keeping a very close pace there as this suspect continues to flee from police.
Yeah, it's interesting, I think, when you brought up the point about this tracking devices and how far we've come and being able to catch some of these bank robbers that we've been having in our area such a problem with. And it's really to their benefit that they've been able to figure this out and track this person down and hopefully not only get them on the bank robbery involvement, but also, obviously this chase. Here we go. We got some strips coming out.
And he missed.
Yeah,
he
swerved it.
Close call there.
But that officer crossed 3 lanes of traffic on foot.
Yeah, and it's definitely all about timing in a situation like that. We are told by a police source that this bank is located on the west side of Houston. Don't have a specific address at this point, but certainly officers in other police districts across the city were picking up on a lot of the chatter that was taking place on the police radios today.
And this guy's made a lot of progress, a lot of miles since that initial west side involvement that we're hearing in a bank robbery. Because, again, when we started doing this chase, we're now near McKinney and the aquarium downtown. If you know that area well, you probably just saw the Ferris wheel that's over in that area. And, that is a tough intersection because there is a lot of traffic any time of day. And you can see he's having a little trouble.
It looks like one of the tires may have been hit.
Yeah, because he looks like he's having a little bit more trouble controlling that minivan there. And, this has been going on quite some time because this started at least 20 minutes ago that we've been following this chase since they got out on the open freeway all the way from the East Loop. He traveled all the way around the city, around the Ship Channel, and now he's ended up back toward downtown Houston. So a really windy way to get around in that open road and a lot of miles on this chase.
And for those of you who are just tuning in and joining us, you're watching a police chase near downtown Houston. We understand it is a bank robbery suspect who is fleeing from police. The bank located on the west side of Houston. We understand that there was a tracking device in the money that was stolen from that bank, and officers in the area were able to pick up on that signal. They had a vague description of the suspect's car, and thus we saw the chase start.
Yeah, now we've been into the area of downtown Houston, and now we're going over the Pierce Elevated. This car's still going along, this minivan. We don't know how many people are inside of that vehicle, if it's a man or a woman driving. We haven't been able to see anything because those windows are tinted fairly well. But we know dozens of officers have been following this chase on the ground and in the air. We've seen them all over Houston's freeways, the East Loop, and still have not been able to slow this person.
And just a couple of minutes ago, you saw a police officer, as you said, cross 3 lanes of traffic, threw out some spike strips. It appears that one of the tires on that van may have been popped because it looked like the driver was sort of moving around erratically, was losing a little bit control of that minivan, but certainly going at a very high rate of speed.
Yeah, no question about that. And here we pick up back some video again live from Sky 2. This is now 45 South, approaching 288. And you can see it almost looks like one of the police officers there, their unit has something hanging from that. I don't know if he actually got caught up in some spike strips there. See that trailing behind there. But they've been going behind him, trying to get these officers to slow him down, again, while trying not to injure anyone. And we're passing 288 again, so we're kind of going full circle in this chase that started about 20 minutes till 1. And here we are at 10 minutes after 1, and this guy's still been going. So a long time for this chase.
And officers keeping a good amount of distance from that vehicle, as well as the other drivers. You know, if you're driving along a busy freeway and you look in your rearview mirror and you see police officers in pursuit of somebody, you know, your instinct tells you, I got to get out of the way. And we've seen that throughout the course of this police pursuit, that a lot of the drivers there has sort of moved over to allow police to continue on to track this suspect.
Absolutely, and that's a smart thing to do. I know we have seen some chases where civilians have actually helped box a suspect in. You definitely don't want to do that when you're in any situation you pass this, and so it's best we're letting the police do their job. They have people on the ground and in the air, and eventually they will find a way to slow these down. It's pretty rare we actually see people get away from these kinds of chases. So again, our sources were telling us that this all started because of a bank robbery. Andy, you told me, on the west side.
On the west side of Houston, again, a tracking device was located on the money that was stolen from that bank, and officers, their vehicles are equipped with technology that allows them to track the signal from that device that's placed in the money. Okay, he slowed down and stopped for just a second.
Looks like he got up in some traffic there, but I think he's going to continue to try to go and squeeze around this long flatbed truck here.
Well, yeah, now it's the time of day where you see that early afternoon traffic, lunch traffic, where people tend to leave work, go back to work, and, you know, certainly on I-45, the Gulf Freeway, this is what you're accustomed to seeing this time of day.
For sure.
And it appears he is boxed in right now. You can see a truck right there, right next to him, with carrying a load of wood. And there's really no way for him to get around that at this point, because he is in the far left lane.
Little getaway area. Now he's on the shoulder. Now he's zigzagging in and out of traffic, and so far, whoop, there goes a door to a police car. I don't know if he was trying to lay spikes or what he was trying to do, but...
And it picked up speed again.
And you can really get a good shot right now of that front that front tire right there. It looks
the back one's
flat.
low.
And it appears there may be somebody in the passenger seat there.
Yeah,
it's a little difficult to make out, but it appears there may be a passenger in there with the driver as well. And again, he's on open freeway at this point and picking up speed.
Yeah, it looks like somebody there in a white shirt kind of sitting in that passenger seat. And we did see, I know our shot cut around a little bit, we saw someone open the driver's side door. This is the telephone road exit. We saw someone open the driver's side door, and I don't know if they were trying to throw something out, who knows, or rethinking their decision to bail out, but then they just found a way to weave around those pursuing cop cars. Got right back on the road.
And this is all in southeast Houston now, Telephone Road. A lot of neighborhoods in that area, a lot of shopping centers, strip centers, and a good deal amount of traffic this time of day on the roads in southeast Houston.
And it looks like now he's bailing off of the freeway and is going into those areas you were talking about where you see a lot of those shops and neighborhoods, and he's blowing through some traffic signs there. Out on like a 4-lane street now in that area of Telephone Road in southeast Houston. Is he on Telephone now? Can we get confirmation of that? If we know the exact location, we're checking on that, but it looks like he definitely is in that area right off the I-45.
And we saw just about 5 to 8 minutes ago a police officer cross 3 lanes of traffic to throw out some spike strips, and it appears the spike strips caused a little bit of damage to the tires there. The driver of that SUV just opened the door. He's clearly having difficulty navigating that vehicle because of the blown front tire.
Yeah, you see a little bit of smoke now coming behind the car. Here he is opening the door. Yeah.
Driving very erratically
drive on rims at this point for the most part. But, I mean, he's getting really close to some other vehicles now, because this is a whole different story once he got off that freeway. Now you're in these smaller streets of southeast Houston.
Yeah, we're in a residential neighborhood.
Yeah, not in any particular lane here, crossing over back and forth. And this is OST now, Old Spanish Trail.
Still in southeast Houston, and you're not seeing a lot of other cars on the road right now. But certainly there's a lot of residential areas along the OST area. You just saw another police officer pass him. He's now westbound on OST here in southeast Houston. Again, the front tire suffered quite a bit of damage after that police officer threw out those spike strips. usually that's the best way for these officers to end these police pursuits. And again, there are certain protocols and policies that all law enforcement officers have to follow while conducting these police chases. They certainly have to worry about their safety, and they have to worry about the safety of the other officers on the road. He's now approaching MLK.
Yeah, here he goes through this area of MLK and a little bit
Looks like it's
more open. You can see all the, I know they've been redoing that area, and he's going straight through it. And you saw officers on both sides of the street there as he passed through the intersection. Definitely taking some damage to the car. You can see his side mirror there on the passenger side is hanging kind of by a thread there. We know at least one or two tires definitely having some drive. I mean, he's just smoking out on this point because he's riding on rims, but still continuing to drive along there.
And this all started because of a bank robbery on the west side early this afternoon. All right, we're told he's now approaching Calhoun, also still in a southeast Houston neighborhood right now. It's a 3-lane road right there. And you can see the smoke that's starting to come from the vehicle. Could be perhaps because of the blown tire, the rubber beginning to burn as the suspect, he speeds up and slows down. It really all depends on how many vehicles are around him, but he doesn't appear to be stopping anytime soon.
Now, this is westbound on OST, and he's continuing to head along there, knowing that all the officers are behind him. He's trying to even pick up speed, from what I can tell. We're going to pull for a wider shot as he goes underneath this overpass here, so we can catch him on the other side. There we are. This is near Scott, so you kind of know where that area is. This is where he's going, still heading westbound, OST, near Scott, and there is nothing left on that front right tire.
No, he's riding on rims at this point. Really, the police officer who threw out those spike strips certainly put his own safety at risk there, as we saw live here on our air. He's passing Scott Street right now. Dangerous to cross 3 lanes of traffic with so many other vehicles on the road.
Yeah, no question about that, but you first and foremost got to get these people stopped, pulled over, in custody, and do that with little to no risk of anyone else on the road, innocent bystanders who are driving nearby. And when you're in a residential neighborhood like we are now, that's certainly a concern, as this driver is still going along in this gray minivan, officers in pursuit, and he's going to ride it out on rims.
And once officers got a vague description of this vehicle, sources are telling us that they tried to pull him over, and that's when he decided to run. All right, we're coming up to 288 now, still in southeast Houston here. Sky 2 doing a very good job of staying over this scene. The suspects, not driving too erratically at this point, considering the amount of damage that's been done to that right tire there.
Yeah, really. And just to keep you up to date, in case you were just joining us, it's 17 minutes after 1 right now. We started this at 12:40. This chase started around the East Loop and 288, and now we're kind of winding back around to that 288 area. And we've been following this driver in a gray minivan. Houston police have successfully managed to lower some of his tires there, at least on the passenger side, but he's still riding on rims through southeast Houston.
Driving northbound on Del Rio through what looks like a very residential neighborhood. You don't see a lot of businesses there, smaller streets, narrower streets. The officer keeping a very, very safe but close distance to the minivan as they wind through the southeast Houston neighborhood near 288.
And we're still going north on Del Rio. You can see it looking a lot more residential, as you said, a lot more trees as they go past some people's homes. And we have seen the driver open the door a couple times, but we're not sure if he was throwing something out or considering bailing. We're not really sure, but either way, he kept closing it, kept on going. And he slowed down considerably now in this neighborhood, turning off of Del Rio right now as we're watching.
This all happening in southeast Houston in a neighborhood near Highway 288. This chase has been going into all areas of the city. We've southeast Houston on the North Freeway near downtown Houston.
Look at that tire. That's a great angle on that tire. There's
nothing left of it.
Yeah.
He's driving on a rim right now, and from what we could tell earlier, it looked like that there was somebody in the passenger seat. All right, now on South McGregor Way at this point, coming up on Scott Street. Earlier, again, it looked like there was somebody sitting in that passenger seat, that this fleeing driver may not be alone.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know how many people are in that car. You can see both those tires, I think, are down all the way on the passenger side there. And mirror kind of hanging by a thread there as he continues here coming up on Scott. Looks like he's turning here right now, southbound on Scott, past another police cruiser there at that intersection, and has kept on going and continuing to pick up speed. Throughout this chase, officers on both sides of the freeway, both sides of the highway, on the overpass. We know they're in the air near where Sky 2 is. And this driver has managed to elude police for, let's say, what is that, 40 minutes now at least, since we started this chase at 12:40 this afternoon.
And when you saw that police officer about 10 minutes ago throw out those spike strips, it appeared that he missed. But obviously he didn't, because both those tires, as you were pointing out, suffering quite a bit of damage. But all right, he's coming up to Griggs and OST, but still able to keep up a decent amount of speed there, not slowing down too much.
No, definitely not. And you can see people in the medians here. As you go through this kind of mixed residential commercial area, you see a lot of people walking out, kind of looking at this. This is a heavily populated area in southeast Houston. Again, we're saying this is kind of Briggs, OST, that area, if you're familiar with it. And this guy's just barreling through there at this time of the afternoon. And you just have to hope that he continues on his path.
There goes one of the rims.
Off a tire. That was the rim. That was the end of
It's
that.
gone. And, you know, officers, they have a lot to think about during these police chases. They want to keep a certain amount of distance from the vehicle that they're pursuing, especially in a residential area, because they don't want the fleeing suspect to pick up too much speed. You know, you got to worry about pedestrians. You have to worry about other motorists on the road.
You know, definitely. And he is southbound on Scott, and we have seen some people coming out kind of on the side of the road watching as this all goes down. This driver has been going through their neighborhood, basically rolling on hardly anything. You can see all those people on the side of the road there watching it as it goes along, and officers trying to do their best to keep folks safe. But again, as you mentioned, this is a challenge. You want to make sure that you apprehend these suspects with little to no injury.
All right, coming up on Sparks. And you can see the minivan bouncing there a little bit. Because, now you're seeing sparks on that rim.
What's this now?
He's got nothing left there on that front right rim. And this is certainly going to affect his ability to continue driving.
All right, here we go. He's getting ready to bail. You can't drive on this much longer.
No. The vehicle coming to a stop right now.
Slowing down to a stop.
You can see, boy, is
there
it smoking.
One, two.
2.
One's surrendering, the other one's choosing to flee. On foot here, as you can see him crossing over the street.
See, he's dressed in a jacket. Looks like he's got some jeans on.
Black sneakers. We did see one passenger give up. He's heading into a park area right now.
I couldn't read the name of that park. Oh,
looks like he's surrendering.
He's got his hands up.
So again, this is the end of a chase that started about 12:40 this afternoon. You can see officers, gun drawn, having him down to the ground as they get him and cuff him.
And the suspect not putting up much of a fight here.
After a 40-minute chase,
He's on the ground.
One officer may have twisted his ankle there trying to get this guy down to the ground, but he gave up fairly easily after this long pursuit. And you can just see the amount of officers descending.
You got about at least half dozen police officers there on the scene right now. The suspect has been subdued. You watched just moments ago. He bailed out of the minivan, ran for a short distance, and then put his hands up as if to surrender. and then dropped to his knees, and then dropped to the ground. And that's when officers were able to actually cuff him and take him into custody.
So this chase came to an end at OST and Yellowstone. This is it looks like a park area over there, and you can just imagine the layer of blue officers that stopped this guy in his tracks, and he decided, hey, it's not worth it.
And
I'm not getting anywhere on this.
And just to recap how this all started, on the west side of Houston, a bank robbery took place this afternoon. There was some sort of a tracking device on the money that was taken from that bank, and police officers in the area were able to pick up a signal from that stolen money. They had a vague description of the vehicle that the suspect was in. They initiated a traffic stop, and that, we are told by police sources, is when the driver decided to flee. And as you saw, that driver was not alone. There was somebody in the passenger seat.
Inside that they got custody of as well. And we now know the name of the bank where this all started. This was the Trustmark Bank on the Katy Freeway. So that's where we're told that this bank robbery initially happened. And then along the way, there was this attempt to try to pull this suspect car over thanks to that tracking device that was on the money taken from that bank. From all the way from the Katy Freeway through weaving Houston, downtown Houston, went over the ship channel. I mean, this has been some mileage put on this van until after 3 or 4 attempts at least with spike strips, officers managed to slow him down to the point where this car was completely undrivable. The suspects had no other choice but to bail out and surrender.
Right, and that officer who threw out those spike strips certainly put his own safety at risk there, as we saw here on live television, crossing 3 lanes of traffic. And at first, it wasn't even clear if the spike strips damaged the tires. But as we saw that minivan continue on, we noticed that first the right front tire started to get flat, then the right rear tire started to get flat. Then we saw burning rubber, and then eventually we saw those sparks there.
Those sparks flying, that was the end of the story. All right, this is Andy Sirota and Rachel McNeil. We've been following this chase for you. We're going to have much more on this coming up first at 4. We'll see you then.
This has been a breaking news alert from KPRC Local 2. For continuing coverage, log on to click2houston.com.
Happy New Year. Subscribe to my channel. Happy New Year.
KPRC Local 2 now joins our regularly scheduled program already in...
Thanks for watching.
Brought you live on Local 2. Robbery suspects lead police on a nearly hour-long chase through Houston. Detectives say this all started when a man robbed the Trustmark Bank off the Katy Freeway. Good afternoon, I'm Keith Garvin.
And I'm Rachel McNeil. Officers went to the bank and ended up chasing the robber and a second man in a silver minivan. Local 2's Courtney Zavala has been following this story and joins us now live from where the chase ended.
You know, it was absolutely dramatic. If you were watching this chase live right here on Local 2, you watched that minivan go all over the city. Kind of give you a vantage point where we are right now. This is Scott Street. Behind me would be 288. In front of me is 610. That minivan actually was headed towards 610 with 2 tires that were completely blown out, and that's the area where that driver finally stopped and was apprehended by HPD. This guy was the driver, and this guy, the passenger. Together, police say they had a pretty busy day. Sky 2 was over the scene as the chase started. The 2 guys in the silver minivan were on a mission to not give up.
Led the marked units on a chase through the loop, back in through downtown.
It started on the northwest side. Police were on the pursuit because this vehicle matched a description of a getaway car from a bank robbery that happened at 12:30 at the Trustmark Bank on the Katy Freeway.
They knew it was a Holden model minivan with the stick figure symbols of a person and a bunch of children and a paper plate, and the unit just happened to be right in front of it when they broadcast that.
A marked HPD unit tried to pull the driver over, and the chase began. For more than an hour, the driver led about 10 units across the city. He swerved around cars and traffic, drove on the highway, feeder roads, and even through neighborhoods.
He was doing on average 60, 65, and at one point, you know, the most he sped up was maybe 75.
The driver avoided spike strips a few times, and it was obvious he wasn't stopping.
I authorized the primary secondary due to the fact that there were possible weapons involved. I authorized up to 6 additional units and the K9 units.
Eventually, 2 tires gave way, but he kept driving. Not for long. The passenger bailed. The driver tried to run, but he didn't get very far. He ran, put his hands up, and then drops to his knees. Both men were taken into custody and soon will be face-to-face with the FBI.
I did notice some currency inside the vehicle. At this point, we're not going to touch the vehicle until we get the crime scene detectives out here.
Now, coming from information from that Trustmark Bank robbery earlier this afternoon, witnesses say that a gun was used during that robbery, a threatening manner. So HPD really was on the defensive here because they realized that at least maybe one of these guys had a weapon. It's unclear if a weapon was found on these two guys once they were taken into custody. Again, that van will be analyzed by HPD robbery, and those guys will be interviewed by them and FBI, probably doing so right now. We're live. Courtney Sabala, KPRC, Local 2.